Welcome to Sacred Business Stories. This is our weekly Substack Live, where we really just have an honest conversation about what it looks like to build a business that aligns with your deepest truth. And today, we are excited to be joined by Jane Riccobono. She is the founder of Wisebody publication here on Substack. And she's also building a healthcare practice for women who really know they deserve better and who are ready to trust their bodies again while having the medical support they need. So welcome, Jane. We're really excited to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm very excited, and I think it's a topic that it's very, very important. So I just like to begin those calls like sharing with people like why we do Sacred Business Stories, and it's really like for inspiration, to inspire people to follow their hearts, to inspire people to create something that is truly meaningful for them. And if you're watching us here, and if you have any questions, we're gonna try to do our best to read the questions, and maybe Jane, you can respond. Sometimes right now it's actually much easier because before it was on the phone and then we would miss the questions. But right now with this desktop is much easier. So you're invited to participate. So basically, like, we just want to know a little more about your story, like, the behind the scenes and how you decided to create the business that you now have.
Yeah. I've been working in women's health for quite a while. I started out as a doula and a childbirth educator, and then I became a certified nurse midwife and a women's health nurse practitioner. And I became a midwife, and a healthcare provider because I wanted to be better than some of the providers I'd had. And what I learned once I became a provider was how hard it is to be that kind of provider, and just how much we're up against in the medical system, and how much, it's very difficult within it to give the kind of care that I feel that people deserve and that feels good to give. So that's why I started Wisebody Women's Health because it's for me and it's for my patients as well. Like, I want to be able to help people in the way that, using everything that I have, including my spiritual background, my meditation background. I bring like a midwifery approach really to other types of women's health because I really feel that midwifery is such a beautiful practice in terms of it starts with trusting the body and trusting the body's ability to heal itself and supporting the body in that and being really humble in terms of what kinds of interventions we make and being very thoughtful. And then also because it's so holistic, it's always integrating the whole life of the patient. So emotions, relationships, spiritual practice, all of those are, kind of just part of the fabric of midwifery, which is what drew me to it. And I feel that so many of those ingredients are really needed in all kinds of healthcare.
I love that. And I love the name Wisebody, and just reconnecting. Like, that's a belief that I have for myself, that our body knows what it's doing. you know, Even if it feels sometimes like that's wrong or it's like painful, but it's actually reacting to something that it's happening there, right? So I like this. I don't know where I heard that, but like this thing of like when you're getting sick is actually the body trying to be healthy already, right? Because there's something there that it's like uh, triggering the body to have that response, and the response is not the wrong thing. And I just love that I see your work and I see other doctors like just standing up for, hey, the body knows what it's doing. I would love to hear from you, like, just more into that, like how, because I think that in general, like, we are disconnected from that. Like, we were taught that the body is wrong, and then like, oh, you have pain in your hand, like, cut your hand, and you find this. I'm being a little drastic here, but so like, how do you see and where we are in the society, like reconnecting to that wisdom? Like, does in general people are trusting it? It's like it's challenging for people to, coming from a system that is feeding us medication and all of that. Like, how do you see the relationship with like between most people and their bodies right now? The people coming to your world, like your patients.
Yeah, it really depends. Some I think that a lot of people, especially people who are attracted to my work, have at least a suspicion that, like,
Mm,
we aren't listening enough, or that there's more to the story than has been able to come out in a typical 15-minute doctor's appointment. So, yeah, I think I'm not sure if that totally answers your question, but I guess, some people are at different places with that. Sometimes I think the first thing that a lot of people need is really just to be heard by a medical professional and seen in, like, a much more total way than you tend to get in the medical system. There's a really big healing power in just speaking and having the
mm,
time to share everything that's happened to you about a particular condition or your relationship with the medical system. That happens a lot where people will just be like, it almost feels like a therapy appointment at first, where they're kind of like sharing how disappointed they are in the care they've received, and it's like just like that ability to build some trust there around what was trust that was broken in the past. Um, it's like it's kind of the most important place to start sometimes, is like acknowledging that, and then because like there's the listening to the body, and then there's also the relationship between the patient and provider. And I feel like they're interrelated. Um, so, once you can relax in the visit, once you can, like, feel that it's almost like sharing that, like, welcomes your body and your body's intelligence into the visit, and then, like, things come out, just from the story, and that's, like, an old, thing in medicine even, that just, like, usually the answer is with the patient. If you can
mm,
listen to all the details and really synthesize and process it, you get so much further, so much more quickly, even though at first it takes patience to just, like, listen. Um, and then, yeah, a lot of those cues are there, whether spoken or in the body language of the patient, the tears of the patient. So, yeah.
yeah, I guess it's not something that you can get in 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
If you're like rushing a session. And yeah, and I love what you share about like, I think that's yeah, like people are like having a suspicion. Like they're like, I'm feeling that there's something that it's not right, but I don't know fully what's there, what's in the other. So what's how to be different, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember for myself. Sorry, I just want to share quickly like my story. Like when I've suffered from like headaches and migraines for years, like my whole life. And then I remember at one point I'm kind of like, I wasn't born like this. Like, I don't, there's something here that I can maybe shift because, like, but it wasn't through the traditional medicine, like, like taking medications and all of that. And like, I found the healing, but it took myself like to listen to my body. It took me to talk to other people, like energy healing and things that are very different from the traditional way of dealing with the body. So yeah, I'm very thankful that I was able to find that path. And I'm just very, very thankful that there's more people choosing to guide people in this way. So,
Mm.
And I was curious, Jane, when, and I know you've kind of been on the more quote traditional path of healthcare for quite some time. Um, when was kind of the moment or kind of the moment when you kind of decided like that you kind of had enough and that there was a new way that you kind of wanted to start moving into? Can you share a little bit more about what your experience has been like as a provider leading up to starting Wisebody?
Yeah. I I guess I just I didn't see a path in the system that exists that really made sense in terms of how what I knew to be true and sort of like we were just talking about those suspicions that you have or like my own personal journey with my own health and my own spiritual practice and kind of just seeing how these really important parts of life and being a human were just, they're not, there wasn't a way to have them in like the typical path that I would see for a nurse practitioner or a nurse midwife. And, um, yeah, and I got burned out, I think it's like a pretty, that's the shorter answer. Like, I was just, like, exhausted and, like, went through so many iterations of, like, trying to make the work for me, and, it just felt like it just felt, like, so draining. So I just kind of it almost felt in a way like I didn't have a choice, like I had to try a new path.
Mhm. And I can imagine also just having been on the other side of, of the table and have had gone through some chronic conditions myself. Yeah, it can be very frustrating. Like when you don't feel that you have that space to be listened to and to have the kind of care that you just described kind of earlier in this conversation. So I can imagine when you see the benefit to the patient of that, but you're not in a setup where you're able to provide that. That has to be incredibly frustrating. And I don't know if and I have to feel that there's many more providers that feel that exact way. And it's just they don't see the path for creating the better conditions because they're just not set up for success. And yeah, I'm just curious if there's anything more you would like to say about that or can say about that.
Yeah, definitely. I you probably know the term moral injury. It's like um started as a military term of like when people don't necessarily do something terrible, but they witness something terrible and then knowing about it is like really painful. There's a version of that in the medical system of like seeing the possibility of what could be or seeing the ways in which the system is failing people and feeling yourself as a part of that system is horrible because
Mm.
you can't there's only so much you can combat some of that and so like you're always kind of confronting that feeling of like it's sort of like a guilt or like a just feeling like you wish there's more you could do and yeah, it's draining and it comes up all the time when I talk to colleagues, and other people like nurses, doctors, and yeah, and a lot of people don't, necessarily have the time and the space to pave a new way or maybe not the personality type. I think I do have like that sort of like, let's do a new thing, kind of personality. So, I hope that like, yeah, I hope that I can I don't know, model that or create some more space for that for other practitioners. Because yeah, for sure, lots of people feel that way.
Mm. And I'm curious, like you mentioned that like through your own path and like your discovery and your spirituality and your meditations, you're kind of like seeing that there was more. How do you see the relationship between spirituality and health?
That's a good question. It's a deep question.
Whatever comes to you, like I have my own opinions and own experiences, but like how do you see that? And I know we could go like very deep into that, but anything that comes to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I see health as a part of our own um transform transformation journey as people. And so I guess my worldview in general, which includes healthcare, is this idea of like we all have um, a path that we're meant to walk in this life, um, and so And so our health, our body is a part of that path and of navigating that path. And so, and it's just kind of true no matter what, right? Like what happens in your body, whether it's pregnancy or a chronic condition, I mean, that has a huge effect on you and shapes you in some way. And so I think that bringing spirituality into it and making meaning out of it is a really important part of being a person and a part of healing, right? Like something can shape you in a way that's character building that you learn and grow, or it can like beat you down, right? And so like when you bring that spiritual aspect into life, and it helps you connect with meaning, especially with hard things, right? And then also, I think, can be a really important connecting thing among people. Um, sharing in shared experiences, and that's also there's a I think profoundly spiritual aspect to that as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. I see for myself that my own healing with headaches was like almost like a wake up call that there was more to what I could see. And I often tell the story that like I think I had so much headaches in my life because I couldn't, that's my pet. And I'm not saying that everybody that has a headache is related to that. But I was so focused on the things that I could see and like planning and like it has to be like this, and like overthinking so much that my brain was like on fire and my head was just responding to that. And then once I learned that, like, oh, maybe there's something more happening here, and that I'm being very simplistic here, but just understand that there's more to what we can see. Um, I felt that that relationship with the invisible helped me to, find my healing and keep myself healed. Like there's one thing that's like, oh yeah, now I found the healing, and then how do you keep yourself in that path, right, of not receiving that, not having that sickness or disease again. So I made my own experience is just like very much related.
Mhm. So, Jane, one of the things I wanted to ask about is I know that this is a relatively new project and endeavor undertaking, building this business. And yeah, I have a lot of respect for kind of your courage in a way to choose to, as you said, to like walk this path that's a little bit outside of the boundaries of the traditional path. And, my experience working with lots of entrepreneurs is that, um, yeah, it's perfectly normal to have like fear and resistance coming up as you move forward with your meaningful work. And so I'm curious, what has your experience looked like as you've kind of moved down this path to bringing this to life? And where's an area where that's coming up for you? Maybe now, if you're willing to share. And what are the sort of practices you do to keep yourself moving forward in spite of that? So that you can keep bringing this stuff forward.
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is support. Like I was doing something like this for like a year, just totally kind of on my own, and it's so tough. And so um yeah, being in communities of entrepreneurs, having coaches, like it's really I think it's kind of essential for me, because otherwise it's just too much of a lonely path, and it's like so easy, kind of like what Carolina, how you were just describing, like you learn the healing and then you have to actually do it. It's like you have the inspiration, and that's fun, and then you have to like do all the things, and that's the hard part, and there's so many opportunities for self-doubt, yeah, or, yeah, just sort of, I feel like yeah, I don't know. I think it's helpful to have people outside of you who are on the journey with you, both as accountability and also, because, to have some voices of support there to combat those inner voices of like self-doubt.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, and you're absolutely right. Like to have the idea is noble, and yet, that's not enough, right? It's truly that decision to kind of get off the fence and start taking that meaningful action to bringing to life. And yeah, I mean, I echo what you said. I've always sought out mentors and support in my own ways because we don't, yeah, we can't see outside of our own box, right? So there's like perspective and kind of seeing our own blind spots. I know that was a big thing when we started Sacred Business Flow, for example. It was, I've been doing marketing for many years, and here I am like with Carolina working on this new message, but it was like, I knew there are parts of it that I couldn't see or that I was blind to because I was so close to it. And so there's that. And then, yeah, absolutely what you described around, entrepreneurship can feel like a very lonely path, especially if you're building something virtually online. So you're always at home in your apartment and, you're doing things that feel really meaningful to you and taking action. And then I just wrote about this last week. You close the laptop and you look around and it's like, there's nobody there's no one to celebrate with, right? And so, yeah, I think that is the opportunity for having community as well. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. Is there anything
Yeah.
else that you'd like to say, or
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say I really like what, Carolina has said about, like, falling in love with the process, because, yeah, bringing it back to that, like, finding meaning and seeing it as part of my own evolution and my own path, and, like, falling in love with the process is, like, this lovely antidote to the sort of, like, anxiety and fear that can come up and or also, like, trying to, like you often say, like, try to have fun with it, like, it's like we do have to I feel I have to actively bring in those, like, positive things, like love and fun, like, because if I don't, like, I just kind of, like, droop.
Yeah, and I truly admire your path because like, and we all have different trajectories, right? But I feel that I don't know, maybe like it's a question for you, like when you are in the like we're used to do stuff in a certain way and you are like within a system, right? And then the minute you decide to go off that track in a way, um, it's probably very challenging, right? That moment of decision of like, now I'm going to do something that's like different. So one thing is like, I was doing something completely different. And then I start doing like energy work and all of that. But I wasn't really like, it was like two very different identities, but in a way, like you're carrying a lot of your wisdom and a lot of the things that like there's stuff in the system that works, right? That's like stuff there that like help actually people, but like maybe the structure in how they're providing stuff. So then you shift yourself, like how do I, not sure if I'm being clear, but like moving from the system but carrying the things that work from that space, and then knowing that there's like a lot of people still doing, that thing. They're still like your colleagues. Like my point is like my colleagues from before, they're no longer my colleagues because it's completely different. But in your situation, you're moving that and you're not completely off that, that way of being. So how resistance is there, or like even this fear, like how it shows up for you? I just think it's like really, really brave.
Thank you. I appreciate that question. I did have a moment where I was considering doing something, like, more different from what from being a nurse practitioner, and that was a really important decision for me, was to actually keep, you know, the medical part of what I do and not just kind of, maybe just be a health coach or something like that, and, um, and for me, the way I think of it is almost like like all these and it's different for everyone. It might not this might not be true for everyone, but for me, like, there's all of this resources of the world that I have benefited from in terms of, like, my education and my experience in the medical system and my experience with patients and all of that, and my knowledge, my medical knowledge, that it feels almost like I have a responsibility
Mm.
to keep it and share it and but just do something new with it instead of just going on a whole new path. And, And it is tricky, yeah, because I have a lot of respect for my for everyone who works in the medical system, and, like, it's kind of a fine line between, kind of critiquing it and also, like, caring for the people in it, because pretty much all the people are very well-meaning, and it's really just the system that's really, so difficult, in many cases, and yeah, so it's hard. It's a hard thing to do. So yeah, it's a good question, and, like, um it's something I'm very passionate about, is that, like, I care a lot about the patients, and I also care a lot about the providers, like the doctors and the nurses
Mm.
and, the nurse practitioners. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I see that it's often like a challenge when people are like in this space of like transition. And sometimes, and we've seen that with clients that they almost have the need to reject everything that came before because they don't find the bridge, right? Like this is where I was and this is where I want to go. And then, but it's kind of like this is part of you. And when we say that, like, oh, sacred business is like bringing all of you forward, like you get to choose how you're going to use that knowledge.
Mhm.
But just for your inner experience, if you can honor that, then the transition of identity becomes much easier because you're not negating a part of you, right? And I just think that, you were kind of like the way you explain and the way you were doing it honors all of that, and it's just beautiful to just see it. So thank you.
Yeah, and it makes me think of, like, being an artist. Like, I feel very inspired by thinking about life as a work of art, or, like, as, like, everything we do as creative in some way, and so it's almost like, yeah, like, my background is some of the tools I have and some of, like, the art supplies I have, so, like, how do I wanna
Yes.
use them? And rather than being, like, trapped in some bad decision I made or something,
Mhm.
to, like, see it more as, like, this opportunity of I have all of this, all of these resources, like, how do I wanna use them?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I do think you have this really beautiful opportunity to be part of leadership as more and more providers and practitioners are willing to kind of step out and examine this. And I see this all the time here. That's one of the beautiful things about Substack. I think there are a lot of other really incredible healthcare professionals that I see that are sharing messages that have a lot of similarity to what I see you sharing in your message. And so, yeah, I feel that as more people are brave and courageous and willing to kind of step out, then you are in a sense paving the way for, yeah, for it to be safe for more people to open themselves up to that. And hopefully one day we'll find, I know this is one of the most complex things we're navigating in society, but hopefully one day we'll end up in a space where, yeah, healthcare has a completely different face and meaning to it. um, but yeah, another question I wanted to ask you about was, I think kind of related to what I was saying earlier about the loneliness, the isolation. I see a lot of creators facing challenge around how to make meaningful, authentic connections as they're kind of starting to put themselves out there, sharing this message that is so close to their heart. And yeah, I'm just curious for you, what is your kind of personal approach to connection? Like, how do you see that? And what advice do you have, or what steps are you taking as you're kind of trying to put yourself out there more and share this very important message, more consistently?
I, um I guess it's like there's the online version and then the in real life 3D version, and, like, both are part of it. Um, I've been way more open to Substack lately, or, like, I'm getting excited about Substack and, like, the opportunities there, in terms of connecting with people who are very specifically aligned with me, so I'm excited about that as a place to, like, grow more in terms of my connections. um I feel like I have this very negative view of social media and, like, don't wanna be on it ever, and when Substack came out with the feed and stuff, I was like, "No, no, not another one." But, like But I am seeing I actually now I do see the value, and I'm trying to, like, be more open to that because, yeah, because I've always really liked the ethos of Substack, and, it feels more genuine. So yeah, that's an area that I'm concentrating, and then it's definitely a journey in terms of just, like, presenting myself and my work in person in, like, my various communities, because, yeah, it feels a little scary still to be, like, doing this new thing, and, but, I feel like that's a really important part of the process, and it each interaction I have, each time I, like, talk to, like, whether it's, colleagues, or I have a bunch of different, like, I'm in a collective that's different types of healers, like therapists and acupuncturists and massage therapists, and that's a really nice place to sort of, get actually, to your other question, to get some support, because it's nice to work with other people who are in some sort of healing space and just kind of, like, have some community there, not just entrepreneurship, but healing entrepreneurship. Um, but yeah, so it's kind of like this work in progress of, making connections both personally and then online.
Mhm.
And I'm just curious, like when you connect with like healers, like I like you came from like let's say the system, and you have this like more traditional way of seeing, and then like your coworkers there, and they see that, and in this other side here, there's like the healers that they also have certain opinion about the system, but me as like as a healer for for some time and doing energy work, I also found that that was like a big desire of mine to work with a doctor. Like I'm like, how beautiful would be to merge those two worlds. And I think that that's what you're doing with your capacity right now, like in what you are creating. But like the healers that you're talking about, the things that you are doing, like how are like their reactions?
Um, yeah, people are really intrigued, and, like, I feel there's really a hunger for, blending together the
Mhm.
medical and the sacred, and, bringing in intuition into, like, the way we do medicine, and, um, yeah, I feel like people just will kind of, like, perk up a little, and, like, sort of, like, lean in a little and be like, "Wait, what?" Like and it's, like, it's cool because it does feel a little bit like people are like, "Wait, can we do that?" Like, like, "Is this allowed?" Like
Yes.
like, it's changing, like, a little bit the social contract or something about, like, what we do or how we do it, and then some oftentimes, yeah, people will be like, "Oh, I have, like, a couple people who I would refer to you like that." Like, it's kind of like they didn't know until they heard it, that it was something that they could refer someone to.
Yeah, I love it. That would be my guess. Like, I think I would be like, "What? What are you doing there?"
Yeah, I feel that way myself about it.
I love it.
And that's what's so beautiful of creating or having a platform like Substack is that I have the sense, and I've seen it more and more, that there's millions of people that will have this "wait, what" kind of impression when they hear what you're up to, and so yeah, it's really wonderful to see you kind of embracing this path and putting yourself forward in this way. And yeah, I know Kayleen and I are very excited to see how this project continues to take shape for you. So yeah, just kind of before we close, I yeah, I love to just ask people, obviously we're here on Substack. I believe this is kind of the main place you're building your home right now. But if someone's either here with us now or they're watching this later on replay, and they get curious about your approach to women's health, like what would be kind of a first step that you might suggest for them if they want to learn more about your work?
Yeah, I would definitely, check out my Substack. It's Wisebody Women's Health, and there are links in there to my website too, and if you wanna, talk to me, reach me directly, you can do that through my website or on Substack.
Cool. Yeah, and we'll Yeah, we'll definitely, we always send out a recap after these interviews, which we'll of course share with you, but we'll make sure that, yeah, all the appropriate links, make their way into there as
Awesome.
well. Yeah. So, well, thank you again. It's been really nice to have you here with us, and it's been an honor. And yeah, thank you
Yeah.
for being here with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was really lovely to have this conversation and inspiring and yeah. So thanks so much.
Yes, thanks for being here with us and for doing the work that you're doing, because I believe it's like it's a necessity. It's really really important, and I'm very happy that you're stepping up and doing this and creating such a beautiful space for women to relate to their bodies in a different way.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you everyone that was watching.
All right.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.